What's up, everybody? My name is Chris Branham, and this is the YouTube channel for strategies for creatives. Today's topic is creativity starts in a box. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Why? Because I consider myself a creative. Now, I'm a visual artist, but I've done a ton of different things when it comes to creativity, whether it's sculpture, whether it's drawing, painting, editing, videos, working with other individuals that might do recordings, etc. Just thinking about anything creative, I try to get my hands into it, even writing. But we have to start with a definition. I am a fan of definitions because we all have to start with a foundational understanding before we start having a real conversation. So here's the definition of creative: having the ability or power to create things, characterized by originality and expressiveness, imaginative. So if you think about it, everybody has those characteristics. Every last person on the planet, from baby to grown person to older individual. What I like to look at is my personal beliefs, which gives a great foundation of creativity. This is Christianity and what God created in Genesis 1. Now, granted, you might not have the same concept or believe the same things, but that's okay. Either way, God created something out of nothing. We create something, but we don't create it out of nothing. We actually need materials. Now, your concept and your idea is usually influenced by the environments that you're in, the things that you've been around and cultivated, your characteristics, your creativity, all that's been, influenced some way or somehow by family, school, education. When you think about that, your creativity does have, in a sense, a place of starting. It's not from anything. It's not just, popped out of thin air like God did. God literally created from nothing. And then he created materials for us to use because we are in an environment. So the word boundaries or the word box, that's your environment. That's where you are and what you're able to do in that space. So a lot of times when people get frustrated, especially in jobs, and you see a lot of this based on people transitioning and wanting to do something else, and the job is no longer stimulating or it just doesn't fulfill them, it's because that box and that environment never gave them everything they needed to be creative. So they struggled with how to be creative in an environment that did not work for them. Now, when you look at Adam and Eve and what God created for them, he created a full gambit of, opportunities within the garden, and he gave them boundaries. The boundaries allowed them to know what would be beneficial for them and how they could use it when it came to being creative. So one of the things I looked at when it comes to creativity and that boundary box or that boundary area or that environment is, what is at your access? What do you have tangibly at your hands that you can utilize to actually fulfill and now cultivate that gift that's in you, that's God-given or innately in you that you've already had? Now, when you have that gift and you know what it is, now you start to kind of maneuver in a way where you start picking and choosing what type of items you want out of that crayon box. But if you don't know what it is and you're still struggling to try to figure out what your creativity is, you're going to spend more time doing any and everything that may or may not be related to your gifts. That can be problematic in certain instances because you're now going after things that have nothing to do with your capabilities or your giftings, which can be, learned skills and behavior, and you can gain wisdom from that. But is that the proper way of going about things? Is that really going to help you be the best person, or are you going to be a different version of yourself rather than the version that you should be? So now we got to look at what creativity really is for. So when you're looking at creativity and what you have in you and how you're expressing yourself, that is you putting your thoughts into action to develop something. That's what God did. He literally said, I'm going to create this environment for these beings in this place. It was his will to act. So we all have that capability because you have a will in you that's either going to push you, pull you, direct you, guide you. Now, can someone else guide your will? Absolutely. But it's up to you to make that move and figure out how you're going to do that and what's the best benefit for you. So when you have your will into action and you're being creative, you need something to go off of. You need something to be tangibly at your fingertips to make those things come into action and be creative. If you don't have that environment, it's going to be very tough for you to do anything, which speaks to another area, the boundary box. So what's in that boundary box? You need to know that you're in a safe environment, first and foremost. If you were trying to create in a chaotic environment, it would be very tough for you to get anything out because you would constantly be bombarded with other things happening and trying to make things work while fighting off other things. You need to know how to communicate in that environment. How you cultivate your ability to communicate is very important when you're trying to create something and you want to share it with somebody else. And then the other side about boundaries is it invokes understanding about yourself. It invokes understanding about the environment because you're actually learning about what you can do and you're learning about what other tangible things are at your access. And without boundaries, you are left to your own devices. Now, we've all had experiences where you've had no boundaries, whether if you were a kid or your job didn't give you type of boundaries that you needed to actually function and do your job correctly. You were going to do whatever you wanted. You were going to show up late. You was going to do the job how you felt like it. You were going to stay out as late as you wanted to as a kid and not come back, which majority of the time caused chaotic moments and could have hindered or hurt yourself or hurt somebody else because there were no boundaries in place. Now, boundaries never feel good. We can all attest to that. Someone telling you what to do or giving you rules and regulations is not exactly what we desire because we want to be our own person. We want to, operate the only way we want to operate. But those boundaries are going to be very key and pivotal for you to know what you can and can't do. If you're trying to build and develop something that's creative and unique, you have to give yourself standards.
You have to give yourself standards.
Or you're going to be pulling from all different materials trying to make something happen and it's not going to work right. As much as you think it will, you still have no standards. So the boundaries that you're setting is standards, it's checks and balances, it's knowing what you should do versus what you could do. And when you start creating, that is a very, very big part of creating something that you really enjoy that will speak to other people and not just yourself. Hope this helps somebody. Like, subscribe, do all that YouTube-y stuff. And I hope to hear from you in the comments below. Talk to you soon.